Hi, I'm Dr. Rick Rock with the Performance Project, sponsored by Redder and certainly with support of NFM Lending. I have actually a really cool privilege to showcase a good friend and a top producer in the state of South Carolina, Brian Prawl, who's a division vice president over at is it division president or division vice president? What's your title?
Regional president is the official title,
Oh,
as
regional president.
important as that actually is.
Over at Cross Country. He's been a really, really good friend of mine. And I've actually had the pleasure of kind of seeing him progress over the years. And part of the genesis of this show, Brian, is that Redder wanted to really dissect like the genesis of a top producer. Like, and then once people achieve, and you know this path really well, once people, achieve a certain level of performance, then the key is like, how do you stay there? How do you keep churning that month in, month out? Because anyone can have a good month. The question is, can you have repeatedly good months, and can you stay on top both within perhaps your market or within the state or within your region or within your company, whatever that is. And you've been through a really cool journey, and I just wanted to talk about that journey.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. I was looking at some of the names on the little intro that you just played, and I kind of feel, I don't know, not worthy of being on here with you, man. So I appreciate it very much.
Well, no problem. And you're absolutely worthy. In the end, you probably didn't recognize it, but at the very end, I had you on there. So you were more than worthy. You were already on the intro. I don't even know if you knew that, which is kind of funny. So tell us about your journey. So because you're the 14th largest I looked up on Redder. In fact, I can put it up. On Redder, you're the 14th largest or 14th top producer amidst non-depositories, right? And I don't know how accurate this is. The last 12 or 14 months. I go last 14 months here. So we're looking at you bumped up to 13, so about 75 million over the last 13 and a half months or so, about 220 units. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, that's pretty close.
And then when you add in, of course, the banks and credit unions, you're right around 29, I think, or 28 in the entire state when you look at everyone sort of combined. But what I love about your trajectory is that you kind of started off producing. This is going back in 2011, 2012. You were producing. You had a small team of a couple million a month, 2 to 3 million a month. And then you started to grow. And at some point in time, you pulled back from producing. And at some point in time, you went back into producing. Like, take us through that trajectory, and then let's talk about sort of where you are today. So what was it?
To your point, I started in 2010 as a loan officer. I made no money at all. Literally, I went from a career before mortgage, was mortgage adjacent, had a salary, one of those base plus type of sales jobs, and was making pretty good money for them, and thought I was going to make a lot of money in the mortgage business. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, in hindsight, I started at the worst possible time to start as a loan officer as far as production goes, right? January 1st, 2010 was my first day as a loan officer. Wow. And I mean, I literally went from whatever it was, 150 grand in yearly income to I made $16,000 or $18,000 my first year. But it was cool because I made it. And then every year was just a progression, right? So I figured out a lot of trial and error, what not to do early. And to your point, hired an assistant in early 2013. That helped a lot. Hired a loan officer and partnered with my business partner now still to this day, Trip Davis, in 2014. And then we just kind of added piece by piece over the years, till we got to a $5 or $6 million a month group, right? So really not much, but for us, it was, we were on top of the world at that point. And you mentioned it, but in 2017, January of 2017, I got out of production. And a lot of the reasons for that. But essentially, I had made a lot of moves. We couldn't find a home that we thought was the right fit for us. Probably a lot of self-induced problems that we had. But every time I would leave money in a P&L. And so my thought was, if I'm a non-producing manager, I can't do that. I'll be able to take my money out of the P&L. So I went into a non-production role. That ended up being a mistake, in my opinion, because we thought we were really good for 18, 19, 20 and through COVID. And what I found is that it's really easy to be really good at mortgages when rates are in the twos. And you also mentioned it. I went back into production because I took a 90% pay cut from 21 to 23 and didn't like it and figured the only way I could control my income was to originate. And really found out that I missed it, that I loved it, that I'm pretty good at it, that I enjoy it. And so now I'm a producing manager, I guess, but I have a book of production. I also have about 40 direct reports, 18 loan officers, give or take, and 20 or so, 25 ops people. So we've got a decent sized group at this point, with me being one of the main producers in that group. So it's been an up and down kind of roller coaster over the years, but currently I've got a region with 4 branches in my main branch here where I'm at in Lexington, South Carolina, and I'm a producing manager at this point.
You know, it's funny. Just I actually found, I'll have to send you all of your production, but I actually found an old offer letter I gave you in 2013 as a producing branch manager of a small little $2.5 million a month branch. I mean, did I ever email those to you, by the way? Because I know you were going to. Oh, I did. Okay, good. Well, I think that it would be motivating to people who start today, right? Because this is probably one of the more challenging environments for new people to start in the business, kind of like it was when you started in the business in 2010.
Yep.
It's how would you compare the challenges today to the challenges when you started in 2010? Like, how would you compare the two? Or do you think like people today starting have a way better chance of succeeding than people who started in 2010?
I think it would be harder for people today than it was in 2010. And that's just a gut reaction. I have no research to back any of this up, but I feel like over the last decade, a lot of people got into the mortgage business thinking it was easy money. And a lot of them have exited the business at this point, but not enough to make it easy for a newbie to start in the business today. And when I started in 2010, I didn't know any better. So all I knew was the more I can be on the phone, the more I'm going to be able to produce. And so if you have that mentality, I guess you could succeed in any market. But today you're competing, like if you're a brand new person today calling on a real estate agent, you're competing with me and the other 29 people that were ahead of me on the production list. And then the other 50 people that are behind me, because those are the people that have stayed. So anybody that's still in the business is good. And so as a new person, you're going to have to overcome that challenge, in addition to it being a little bit of a slower market than it was 3 or 4 years ago. So I would say it's probably harder today to succeed as a newbie than it was in 2010, but I don't know how successful I was. So I don't know if that's accurate. What does your data say about that? How big is the market today compared to 2010 or 2011?
That's a good question. I'd actually have to, I'm not prepared to answer that question necessarily, but I, as far as the overall pie size in 2010, 2011, but I think that the industry was so fractured and so disjointed that kind of to your point, if you stuck with it in 2010, the number of people who got out of it, I do think that you had a more of a fighter's chance of getting the business because you didn't have so many people fishing in the Lexington Columbia pond. Today, you have
2010 was 3 years after the crash started too. So you had 08, 09, and then 2010 for people that already had exited the business. And I guess in 2026, you're a couple of years after COVID, so it may be the same thing now. But I feel like when I got in, the pie was small, but there wasn't a lot of competition. It was, if you're hungry, you're going to get opportunities. And I feel like there's a lot of hungry, top-performing loan officers today.
Well, what's hard is that you really do have a competitive disadvantage if you're new. Because if I'm new starting in Columbia, to your point, not only am I competing against the 29 or so that are ahead of me or above me, but oftentimes those people that are above me may not even live in the state anymore because of consumer direct and digital and more digital acquisition plays and servicing plays and in different ways that top lenders. It used to be like West Coast lenders aren't very good at East Coast business and sort of vice versa. But now a lot of those lines have, because of technology and just market penetration, those lines have kind of gone away. So I think to your point, and let's face it, if you're a realtor, who do you want to deal with? Right? Somebody who's brand new in the business, who's going to be a great hustler, but somebody who won't be able to get your deals closed, or somebody who won't be able to negotiate deals effectively with the consumer, or a Brian Prawl who's been in the business, 20 years and is one of the top loan officers in the state.
If I was a realtor, I'd rather deal with Brian Prawl than anybody else in the world. So if any realtors are watching this, just keep that in mind.
Well, I don't disagree, right? I mean, and I think you've really, how did you edge your way back in? Did you say, like, because any non-producing branch manager can get their license and start originating again, but no one's going to kind of grow in the way that you have so aggressively. So how did you do it? How did you get back in the game?
Yeah, I'm actually proud of that because I went 7 years without originating a loan, and during that time period, I turned over all of my realtor relationships, all of my past clients. Like I had no database, I had no realtors, I had nothing. I was basically starting from scratch with the advantage of having all the knowledge that I'd acquired over the last 14 years. But I was starting from zero book of business, and that was about in October of 2023, I think. So it was hard, but what I did was just pick up the phone as often as I possibly could. I mean, I went all in. The old saying, burn the boats, I did that. I didn't have another option. In my mind, I was needing to be a top producing loan officer again to support my family and hit my financial goals. And so I had to go all in on it and just did that. So I built a plan, had a team that I kind of had assembled, hired a loan officer assistant, got my butt on the phones, and I was having 150 conversations a week for a year and a half.
Wow.
I mean, it was straight grinding. I know that's an overused term in a lot of circles, but that's what I did. I built a list of agents that I wanted to work with, called them as many times as it took to get an appointment.
So slow it down a little bit because you're making it sound so easy. So you started grinding. Okay, so I'm a top agent in Columbia. Like, walk me through. Like, what did you say to me as a top agent in Columbia? And I'm assuming these are people who have probably kind of worked with you in the past, or were these people who just had no idea who you were?
It wasn't cold calling agents all that much because as a non-producing manager, I did help loan officers. I did host events. I was out in front of real estate agents, but so it wasn't necessarily a cold call. I mean, for the record, I did do a lot of that, but most of it would be, "Hey, Rick, it's Brian. In the past, you knew me as this non-producing manager. I was helping XYZ loan officers. I'm actually originating again. I've got a great program. I'd love to get in front of you for 10 minutes just to tell you what I can do to help you grow your business." The problem with that a lot, because that's real easy for a manager to say to a loan officer. The problem with that is actually having a plan to help them grow their business. And so you've got to have something to offer at some point so that you don't just full of it every time you go meet with a realtor. And so that's simple stuff too. There's a lot of coaching programs that have plans I'm in a coaching program, and there's several of them out there that are great. But I essentially just followed the plan and came up with my own scripting. I'm not a big script guy, but I've got a decent enough personality that I can joke around with somebody while also being serious about business simultaneously. And so just as many of those conversations as I could have is what my goal was.
And did you ever get frustrated? Did you want to just be like, dude, I can't do this. I'm not going to be able to get my numbers up? Or were you more confident that if you kept on doing the right things, that eventually you'd catch fire?
Can both be true simultaneously? Because that's what I felt like. I was confident that I could do it, but also it's the mortgage business. So if you go a day without some level of frustration, you're probably not doing it right. And in my world, I'm famous is not the right word, but my team and my offices all have heard me say on multiple occasions that discipline outweighs motivation 100% of the time. And so what that means to me is being disciplined in what your effort needs to be through the frustration. So yeah, I mean, I get told no all the time. I get objections that I can't overcome. I get blown off. I get set up for appointments. I get all the same things that any loan officer will get. I just am very quick to implement an idea, and I'm very quick to get that out of my mind and move on to the next call.
And how helpful is that when do you recruit new loan officers, or what's your strategy when you recruit new loan officers as a whole? Will you take on a sort of a pet project?
Yeah, for sure. I'm not a big recruiter. I think it's my lack of patience. Maybe it's my ADD. Maybe I don't know what it is, but have never had an affinity for recruiting. And so I don't enjoy it. And I try to focus my time and effort on things that I enjoy, because if I don't, I'll get burnt out a lot more quickly. And so recruiting I feel like the sales cycle is just so long, and that's where I get frustrated. So like, recruiting is, I've got to develop a relationship with a loan officer, and it might take years before they do anything with me. With a realtor, I can go close a deal today. I can say, hey, Rick, what can I do to earn your next referral? Get a referral, get them pre-approved, get under contract. And so the sales cycle has more of an immediate gratification to me than recruiting typically does. But to your point, I just hired a loan officer that's starting on this month, in a week, on next Monday. And that was an organic referral from one of my other loan officers. And so I don't put a lot of time into recruiting, but I will certainly bring in people. And then we have a platform that they can succeed in. And then I will do everything in my power to make sure that they are successful. So yeah, we do hire loan officers, and I've got 18. But we operate like most mortgage companies, where it's like an 80-20 kind of thing, where your top producers are your top producers, and then there's some bottom people that you want to put effort into to get their production up. But yeah, this loan officer I hired is a 50 loan a year loan officer with a goal of doubling. And so hopefully she comes in and follows the plans that we give her, and as long as she's disciplined and does the activity, I think she will grow.
That's so fascinating. So how many months did it take for you to start climbing your production? Was it sort of gradual, or did it just sort of, you had a few dry months and then it just popped?
The latter. It was a few dry months and then it just popped. But popping is I don't know, it's kind of based on whatever your perspective is. Because I was talking to my loan partner this month, earlier this month, and I was pretty frustrated because I'm having a down month this month. We'll only close 13 loans this month, and that's frustrating. But then when I look back to 2020, early 2024, I would have been ecstatic at 13 loans, right? So it's like my perspective has changed because I've had some 25 and 30 loan months. Now that's my new normal. So anything lower than that is a very frustrating thing for me to deal with. But when I step back and look at it from a bird's eye view or a more global perspective, I should be proud of where we are and still understand that there's room for growth. Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. I mean, it is striking because, I mean, you really dove back into it, and I agree with you about your sales skills. I mean, you've always been somebody that has been, obviously very likable and very knowledgeable about the business, and so you're able to, and you're super active in the community. There's a top producer in Maine that I interviewed, for this show, and she, I'm trying to let me pull up her name. I want to say it was Skylar. She was so excellent. Her name is, Skylar Welch. You should really look her up. She speaks a lot. She's in the state of Maine, right? Super country, but she consistently pounds out 180, 200 million a year as an individual producer, just a really, really solid producer. And she, her secret was, like, number one, she started off as really largely a sole provider, as not a single mom, but like a new mom, pregnant, like all the financial weight on her shoulders to, for her family for the most part at the beginning of her career. And she just really pushed hard to do it. But her success was the ground game. She's like, Rick, I don't use the CRM, but I'm in every parade. I'm in every, I sponsor the Little League. Anything my kids are involved in, I sponsor, and I'm super involved in, so that way I can at least kind of do double duty, where I'm committing to the community through my kids, and I'm also showcasing, hey, I'm your local mortgage resource. Please use me.
I love that. It's genius, and you're right. If you have kids like my kids, I've got a freshman in high school and a sixth grader. They have activities. If you can double dip, why wouldn't you? Plus, you're giving back, and I'd like to meet her someday, because that's what you should be doing. It's a organic way, sustainable way to grow your business, and it sounds a lot more fun than what a lot of people do.
Well, no, she's amazing. I mean, it shocked me because I thought maybe, her numbers were incredible. I'll send you the episode I did with her. She was actually episode number 1. I started in the state of Maine, and she's in a super country environment, not dissimilar to, Lexington isn't country, but South Carolina is pretty rural, and you don't have to go very far where you're doing a lot of potential USDA farmland, a lot of agribusiness, a lot of agri kind of deals, and I was shocked when she said she didn't use like really technology really doesn't isn't really a driver of her business. It's really just her being extremely well known in these local communities of Portland, Maine, which I bet you. What's the population of Columbia?
Like Metro Columbia is probably 500,000.
So yeah, I mean the population of Portland, Maine is only about maybe 68,000 people. Okay, the state's total population is 1.3 million. But so so let's say the metropolitan area, if there's such a thing in Portland, is maybe 80,000 people, right? And she was bringing in those kind of numbers largely because she was everywhere at every, and things didn't cost much. Marketing wasn't as expensive, but every little league baseball game, every parade, everything that was done in the community, she was out there. But she reminded me of you because you've really built a very successful business kind of in a very similar kind of manner, right? You've always been in Lexington, right? Your offices, and then when did you build the building that you're in today?
2021, November of 21 was when we moved in.
And then how did you leverage that as a way to kind of say to the community and to area realtors like, hey, we're the real deal. We're serious with what we do, and you should be using people. If you're serious about your customer, you should be using serious loan officers and a serious mortgage lender like, the Palmetto Mortgage Group. Like, how much do you think that helped in helping sort of move your trajectory as a group forward?
We want the desire to build it was more selfish than that. We just wanted a cool place to go to work, honestly, and it was COVID, and it was weird because we got our plans done pre-COVID. COVID hit. We didn't know if we were going to continue with the plans because, if you remember, at the beginning of COVID, nobody really knew what was going to happen. It turned out that it was really great for our business, and so we ended up proceeding with building it, and we moved in November 2021. When we built it, we designed it with like the downstairs space being a training area. So we've got a lounge and a gym and cool stuff, but we also have a training area where I can hold 60 people. And we have realtors in our office, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a month. And so we fill that room up often. So as a retention tool for loan officers and a recruiting tool for new loan officers, we wanted that space available so that they could have somewhere to leverage their time and get several different realtors together. And so honestly, I feel like it gets underutilized sometimes, but 2 or 3 times a month, we'll have 40, 50 agents in the room, which is kind of cool. Secondly, in South Carolina, we're an attorney state, so you have to add in the closing attorney's office. And we built this building with the number one closing attorney in mind. So they're our top tenant, and they've got the prime space with the most road frontage. And so being just next door to them, we get exposure to any realtor that has a closing with them, any client that has a closing with them. And so it's just by association, we get some notoriety as a result.
Yeah.
There wasn't intent with what you're describing. It was more, as embarrassing as it is to say, selfish in nature. You just wanted somewhere cool to go.
No, I think that's incredible. So would you say like in today's environment lends your ability to scale more aggressively? Or don't you feel somewhat vulnerable being like the local, don't you feel the need to kind of grow outside of the Lexington Columbia footprint? Because you're operating 250, 300 million, it's sort of in that range. And it's like, so I look at you like your own, like almost like a separate company. And a lot of small companies tend to be sort of fairly vulnerable, kind of sticking a flag in their local market. Like, and I know, but there's risks. There's risks of going into markets you're not necessarily in, or you don't necessarily know as readily, like Charlotte or Western North Carolina or Georgia or what have you. Like, is that of interest of yours, or do you feel like more just the defending your turf is going to be something that will win in the end?
I think I might just be too dumb to realize how vulnerable we are, but we focus very much on service. And so like we're not always going to win on price. We're not always going to win on whatever. And we do have a lot of products that we can win with. But for me, if a realtor and I are going to have a partnership where it's more than just a vendor relationship, I need to be able to service them at a high level. And that becomes really difficult when I'm not in the market. And, or at least in my mind, it does. I don't know if that's accurate or not. So I'm kind of the opposite. I'm licensed in a lot of different states. I've got branches in a few different states, but my focus on my personal production business is hyper local. Like I want to be able to drive within 30 minutes to your office. I want you to be able to drive here and come to one of my events. I want to be able to go do an open house if you need me to, or meet a client somewhere. And so I really do focus on the locality more than I do growing at scale in different markets. That may end up coming back to bite me at some point, and I don't even really consider it defending my turf. It's just I'm going to be a disingenuous salesperson if I start selling how great my service is to somebody in Alabama, because I'm not able to fulfill that. I'm not able to deliver on what I'm trying to sell them. So I do loans in a lot of states. I get quite a few loans out of Texas randomly. I get loans out of Florida. I'm licensed in Georgia. I get a lot of business in North Carolina, but I would say 80% of my business is hyper local, and close to 95 to 99% of my effort is focused on the local business.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of, Michael Kelleher. I'm not sure if you know who he is, but he's a kind of an industry consultant, great guy. You should meet him. He's up in Boston. He talks about this concept of owning your zip code, and he's like, look, if you own your zip code, define like get X number of zip codes that are around your metropolitan area, and you own that zip code. You're always going to have a leg up over whether it's that AI voice chatbot who's calling your consumers, or if it's some Rocket loan officer that's in Detroit that's calling your consumers. You're always going to, because at least to some degree, if they know who you are and you're constantly sort of staying in touch with them locally, even if they get a proposal from somebody else, the chances are more likely than not that they're going to pick up the phone and maybe call you or call a member of your team to figure out, like, is this the right direction?
The good news at this point for us is, let's see how I can word this in a way that makes sense, but it's concise enough. Like I'm never going to be able to compete with Rocket on a marketing budget, right?
Yeah.
So that's just, I can't compete online. If a client in California is calling 3 lenders, I may be one of them, but like they're more likely going to be called somebody that's hitting them with ads all the time, like Rocket or whoever. In real estate has not evolved to a point where you can't, if you're using a real estate agent, that agent is going to have to be local. And so if I can go after the local real estate agent with the mindset of local is important, one of my agents describes it as, use Brian or somebody local because they have chokeability factor. Like if they screw up, I can go choke them. But she'll use that as a selling point when making a referral to me over somebody who's got a pre-approval with a Rocket or some other national lender. And nothing against Rocket. I mean, they're huge for a reason. They've done something right. But if I'm competing with them, I would much rather compete with them in Lexington, South Carolina than I would for a refi lead nationally or something like, you know what I mean? And so to me, it just seems like it's safer to go local than it is somewhere else because that's less likely to be taken away from me at some point. I'm always going to be local to Lexington, South Carolina.
No, I love that, man. I love that because you're a good sort of representative of that market and a true. Pardon the ignorance, but is Lexington and Columbia, is that considered low country? Is South Carolina low country, or is that just Charleston South?
It's somewhere in between here. We're considered the Midlands. So you've got the upstate, which is Greenville and Spartanburg. You've got the low country, which is Charleston and all the coast, and then you've got the Midlands, which is where I'm at.
Got it. Well, this northerner was.
Well, the worst part about being in the Midlands is that we have the smallest loans. So hopefully that changes at some point, but my average loan size isn't as big as I'd like it to be. What's your average loan size? In the market, we're around 300 on average purchase price. Mine's probably 330.
Oh, there we go. Yeah, interesting.
340.
Yeah, that's just 340,000. That's interesting. So where would you say, like, you have 18 loan officers right now? What do you do to try to level up to improve them? Like, or are they Like, how do you have like give me your structure? Do you have like weekly sales meetings? Like, how do you pipeline reviews, coaching sessions? Like, do you do anything like that with your staff?
Yeah, absolutely. We do individual coaching for anybody that desires it, which most of them do. It's not as structured as it probably should be, but we do individual stuff with them all the time. I review numbers with everybody monthly. I review a little bit more in depth planning and business planning on a quarterly basis. We do Wednesday morning sales meetings where either Trip or I will talk about a concept or something that's important. That a lot of times it's some sort of strategy or some sort of tactic to take to the market. I'll send an email on Mondays with just our production summary for the month, like month to date stuff. That's designed to create a little bit of competition so everybody can see everybody's numbers. Like we track, I focus on leading indicators. So I don't have the desire to go see their call logs. I'm not that kind of manager. I'm like, you need to make 40 calls today. But I can track as early as a file start or an application. And so we start tracking applications and everybody can see, oh, Brian's got 40 and this person's got 20 and this person's got 2. And so the desire is that for that to be a little bit of a motivating factor. I don't know that it is or isn't. I know some people, I know that on the weeks that I forget to send that email out, I get people bitching at me about not having sent it because they want to see where they're stacked up. So I feel like that's working a little bit. And then we'll do pipeline stuff often. That's more Trip than me because he gets into the weeds of their loan structure and stuff like that more than I. Like I'm more of a let's go help you overcome this objection. Let's come develop this sales strategy and how we're going to talk to this agent or this group of agents. And Trip's more of this is how you can structure this loan to make sure it gets approved on manual FHA underwriting. I can do it. I just don't have the patience to teach it.
Yeah. Well, you do it for your own borrowers all the time.
Right.
It's just yeah, no, I mean, I think you and Trip have a good op sales kind of, yin and yang to one another, I mean, Basinski's my Trip, my
Right.
version of Trip, right? Um, and so when you find that sort of balance, it's a great it's a great balance to be able to sort of cover all bases within the organization.
Well, it's a
Um,
partnership that's lasted longer than most people would have expected. And we've been together for 12 years
lo-
and 4 different
lo-
companies.
Longer than both of my marriages, so yeah. So, I would consider that a really successful relationship.
I mean, right? We don't hang out socially at all. Like we go to dinner maybe twice a year, and like I respect him, he respects me. We trust each other. It works really well.
No,
Um,
that's a great partnership. I love it. And that's rare. It's hard to find because you see relationships like that break down and that really sort of implodes. And we know some folks sort of in that bucket in South Carolina where those partnerships break down and then they're not stronger apart. They think they're stronger apart, but then but they were always stronger sort of together. But how would you what would you say to be the not the future? We have Nexa acquiring U Mortgage. There's a lot of consolidation in the business. How does that impact you? Do you think, or how do you see any of the effects of any of that in the local market, or is it just, or do you think it's just it doesn't really impact you guys and you guys are just focused um, on the people you serve and the realtors you know?
I'm really glad that I know smart people that have a global perspective like you because I see the news and I don't know how it's going to affect me or not. I mean, I think consolidation is going to happen in our industry. I think it's probably a good thing in the long run for the consumer. I think it's a good thing for the companies that's acquiring other companies and maybe even the acquirees. But I don't know how it affects my day to day. Like if Cross Country acquires another company and does that, I don't know, does it affect me? I don't know. It might give us more scale where our pricing might get sharper. It might help Ron make more money. I don't know. But at the end of the day, I hope it doesn't matter because I've got my blinders on and I'm focusing on my realtors and my customers.
I love
So like
that.
I said,
Well, I mean,
when I'm out of a job, I'm going to be looking for you to help me. When something happens and I was too dense to be paying attention to it, let me know and I'll call you to help place me somewhere.
yeah, no, I mean, look, I think I think you're really well positioned. I don't think there's any question about that. I mean, like, we both know Daniel Saw. I mean, Daniel Saw, he owns Columbus, Ohio, right? He does more volume in Columbus, Ohio. In some ways, there's a lot of there's kind of a lot of comparisons actually between you and Daniel in that he's in a very sort of a what I would consider a tier two market. It's not a Philadelphia, it's not a Chicago, it's a Columbia or a Columbus, and and his focus is just owning a zip code. That's probably the best way of doing it. I mean, he's got some branches in Michigan, and maybe a couple in rural, like in Cincinnati, but largely his bread and butter is Columbus, Ohio, and he's grown. I think I want to say when he joined us at NFM, he was anywhere from 80 million, 90 million a year or so in business, and he'll do maybe a billion, maybe a billion two, billion three this year. And a lot of it though is that he does more loan volume in the Columbus metro area than Rocket, than any organization combined. Not combined, but any organization.
The similarities start with him and I starting at the same company, residential finance, way back in the day.
Yeah.
And end with that because he is incredible and has built his business too.
Well, there's a lot of similarities. I mean, his model's a little different in that he's. I'm not going to say a consumer direct because he's all purchase and he focused, but he runs. He's got about. I'd have to look at his actual number of loan officers. I want to say he's got about 37 or so, 35 or 37 loan officers. He's got a team of about 60 or 70 people, and. But he's like you in that he's very disciplined. He focuses on his local market. He doesn't get distracted. And I don't care what online lender comes out there or what digital lender comes out there, what other lender that fishes into his pond. Year in, year out, he just keeps growing. And year in, year out for you, you've just kept growing. And so I do think that there's a lot of comparisons actually. Now, you're at different production growth stages, but I think that, he got to 350 million and then sort of plateaued for a little bit and then he popped. It's a series of step functions based on, the right hires and the right sort of, he gets, you get lucky, not just him, but people in that step function get lucky and you might get a 5 million a month group here or an 8 million a month group there. And you start sort of, growing from there. But, I definitely see that potential. I definitely see that potential for you, for sure. Because the reality is you're still really young, right? You're still mid 40s, mid to late 40s. And like you and I, like we're young, right? So you and I got a long runway in the business yet to go, and I think you and I can do great things with the second half of our career.
I don't disagree at all. I appreciate it.
What else would you say to be? How do you use AI today, or do you use AI?
I'm late to it, getting used to it, but I mean, just the other day. So not yesterday. That would have been this weekend. Late last week, so like Thursday or Friday. I uploaded all my closed loans since I got back into originating. Copilot is built in through our system, so I can read my loan data. And so I dumped all of it in there, just the report that I ran. And now it's like, build me a 90-day marketing plan for all my past clients and any realtors. What it spat back to me in about 10 minutes was the most incredible breakdown and plan. I have it here. I'm using AI and then printing my plan.
You're doing this. You're going, hold on. Let me look and see. Hold on.
It was mid 40s, what it was unbelievable. The breakdown of the data of my A realtors who are dormant and how I need to market to them, my B realtors who I really need to go out to, all the listing agents that I didn't properly market to, all my past clients and when to reach out. And then what was amazing to me was it was like, okay, now here's all the data, here's the breakdown. Use this and use this script when you send this email to this realtor. Use this script at this text on this day. And it gave me a 90-day plan with a weekly task. So it's like, as a loan officer or as a manager, okay, I'm going to do this for every single one of my loan officers. I'm going to build the plan for you. Literally, all you have to do as an originator is follow this plan, send this email. It's almost no work. And so I'm like, but are loan officers even going to do it? And that's where I'm like preemptively getting frustrated with, you have all of these tools at your fingertips All you got to do is use them and your business will grow. But when I was floored with the data that I got back, like broke it down by brokerage, where my focus needs to be, what zip codes I was in, like X percent was this bit, like it was just an incredible breakdown, and I was floored by it. Then it broke down with the contact information, every agent that I needed to reach out to, and it built out a plan. So now the next step for me is I put that in my calendar with a task list, set it up for every Monday, and so every Monday I'll be doing this plan for the next 90 days. I'll let you know the results.
Well, I was going to say, I'm kind of with you on this, right? I've just begun to use Claude in the their sort of Claude cowork, where you're able to sort of set up. Obviously, I have my projects and stuff like that, but I have these. Who's helped me? Who's helping me build out mine is Renee Rodriguez.
I just had a loan officer go through his Amplify this weekend.
I'm telling you, so Renee has a program called Amplify Studio, and it's basically an easy way of being able to organize content creation between video, carousels, posts, and newsletters. And it's a way to kind of capture your ideas that you have, or things that are super relevant to Brian Prawl, and be able to sort of automate the process of actually creating content around things that are very, very specific to you. So it's not just like running AI and just throwing posts at the wall. It's something that's very purposeful and specific and designed for hooks for realtors or hooks for consumers. And Renee, I touch 3 million people a year on LinkedIn. Renee touches 2 million people a week on LinkedIn. So the results that he has had, and this is a model that he uses for himself, are extraordinary, which gets me to kind of your social. I know in the past you've been fairly frustrated, or at least not as motivated by the results based on the social that you've done. I think your social is fantastic, and I think it's a matter of you just continuing to do it, because eventually, you're going to have your sort of dismal results, and all of a sudden you're going to spike, and then you'll have some more dismal results, and then you'll spike, but if you consistently do it, my feeling is that you're going to be a complete rock star. Like, it's actually going to really take off because as long as you continue to innovate and you tweak the model and what you're aiming to accomplish with your use of social. I think your videography, your audio, and your messaging is incredible. Like, what kind of results have you felt from social, and then what do you continue? Like, where's your head at with social right now?
The reason I even started it about 2 years ago is because I had a client legitimately tell me on the phone that she was choosing another lender because she couldn't find me on social media, and I got frustrated. So I was like, okay, I've got to post. But my problem with it, from a personal level, is that I don't ever think about capturing the moment when I'm out on the boat with my family. Like, I'm not going to ever be the guy that's like, oh, I need to post a story. Oh, I'm out on the boat. Hey, look at me, guys. And so all of my social, for the most part, is a videographer comes in, I shoot my videos, and then we post them at whatever cadence we post them at. I can tell you that last year, when that was my first full year of doing it, I tracked how many pre-approved borrowers I generated from social and was able to refer out to realtors that I work with, and it was 11. And I'm at 14 year to date. So that part of it is growing a little bit. But still, 14 loans when I'm going to close, 220 is still a pretty small part of my business. But it's relevant because I'm able to develop and deepen relationships by referring those to agents that I want.
Yeah.
So it's
5%. It's 5%. It's not bad, right? And I think it's a way of growing. But you've also been you've been bootstrapping it, not financially, but you've been just throwing ideas around. Like, I think that if you actually connected with, whether it's people like Renee or someone, you really should connect with Renee, because we spent about 6 hours on a Zoom last weekend, and it blew me away, like totally blew me away. And the stuff he and I are doing together, and I'm just beginning to scratch the surface on it, is kind of mind blowing. But even the point of just autonomously being able to monitor your emails and be able to be just on its own, send notifications out to realtors based on that program. Like right now, you're putting notifications on your calendar, but having it having it already know what the cadence is and what the messaging should be based on the data that you have. You don't even have to do that. You could set up a co-work where just autonomous just sends it out for you, and then gives you an update. These are the realtors I contacted for you on your behalf. Here's the borrowers I reached out to by email or send them a text message or something. I mean, we are entering.
I got excited about AI last week early, and I ran this for several of my loan officers. And apparently, when I went in to do something today, I'd already used up my tokens for the month. So we'll see. We'll see when I get those back.
You just got to throw the Amex down. You'll be fine. You know. Well, no, look, I love having these conversations with you, Brian. I think you're, obviously an extremely accomplished mortgage professional and mortgage banker. And obviously I recommend every realtor and builder in that market to really get to know you and to leverage your services and your service levels. I think they won't be disappointed. And I'm always rooting for your success.
Well, I appreciate it, man. How long have we known each other now? 13 years, 14 years?
Yeah, I think since 2012. Yeah, 13, 14 years. Yeah.
You are a very good friend. I appreciate the honor of being on this with you. And anytime, man, I do appreciate it.
Yeah, and we're going to be golfing together here in a couple of weeks. You got to let me know if there's any money that I owe, or if there's some registration I need to fill out, or if I just show up. You got to let me know.
We got you covered.
You sure? Okay, well, just keep me posted. Do I bring my own clubs, or should I just rent them when I'm down there?
I mean, that's up to you. I don't have clubs for you, so either rent them or I would probably bring them.
Really? Okay.
Do you own golf clubs?
Oh, I do. I mean, I'm a guy that golfs like 5-6 times a year, so I'm not like a real golfer. Like the real golfers play like 3 times a week, and so I mean, I could bring them, or I can just rent them when I'm down there. I'm leaning toward renting them, but I don't know who to contact for any of that.
Worst case, you can just use mine. We'll round it. It's not a big deal.
Oh, we'll just share clubs? That'd be great. We're both about the same. You're probably thinner than I am now, but we're both about the same height. Well, good. I appreciate you, man, and keep up the great work, and I look forward to staying in touch.
Absolutely, man. Thank you.
All right, take care.